I am so excited to be back with another artist series. Today, we have a fantastic musician, bassist, a producer. He's also my friend that I affectionately call him Lil Ellis. Hi, Ellis. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Big C. Thanks for having me. I saw it's funny though, because like I have been following the show, and so like I saw like all the other people, and I was like, oh man, like you had some like real like the who's the baseball player you had on?
Uh, his
The
name's his name's Brandon, and he plays for the Savannah Bananas.
yeah, I saw it and I was like, oh man, like that's nice that you said I'm like a good musician. Cause I was kind of like, what did I like? What about all these people are like so accomplished and like I graduated college last year. So like I don't know. Anyway,
Ellis, okay. Before I get to
thank
my
you for
question,
having me on. Sorry, I just yeah.
I'm glad you're here,
I feel
Ellis.
very honored. Yeah.
Ellis, you are very accomplished. Not only do you have great skills, you're a great person. Um,
Thank you. I was not trying to bait you into saying that, but
I would
anyway,
have said it. I would have said it. I would have said it anyway at some point.
thank you.
So I want you to take me back and tell me, how did you first get your start in music?
For sure. Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier today. I think like basically so I'm from Great Falls, which is a suburb of Washington DC, and um I honestly I think what happened was neither of my parents play music. My dad played guitar like when he was a kid, but didn't really stick with it. Um but around like I don't know, when I was maybe like 10, my brother started taking piano lessons. And I have an older brother. And I started taking guitar lessons a little bit later. And I think, you know, from super early on, I was super into music. I saw uh I saw my first concert like that I kind of like was like conscious for, if that makes any sense, was the band Coldplay. I saw them in DC, and that had a huge impact on me. I remember watching like their uh one of their concert movies when I was a little kid and just being like obsessed with like their drummer, Will Champion. I was just like, oh my god, he's the coolest. Like, and yeah, started playing guitar, like I said, when I was about 10, I think. And I was really lucky in that the music school I went to had a like a band program where if you play guitar, you get matched up with a drummer and a singer and sometimes a bass player. Um, and so I was playing music with other people, other kids, like from really early on. And I think there's just really nothing like playing music with other people. And so I was hooked from when I was like 10 or 11, maybe. Um, yeah, that's what I would say. That was kind of my start to playing music.
Wow, I love that, Ellis. I love how first thinking about your brother, how you kind of saw him with the piano lessons,
Mhm.
being influenced by Coldplay. That's why live music is so important. And I feel like ultimately what you said is having that experience to like make music with other people is kind of what pushes us. It's not just the music, it's also the
Yeah,
community.
it
Yeah.
really is. And I think that was the other thing that I was going to mention too is like uh my neighbors growing up uh dear friends of mine to this day still their parents they're of the parents of the family, they're both musicians, and some of the kids play music as well. And we would go, or really it was just me, like I would go over with my guitar and play like Santana tunes, um with the dad of the family. His name is Albert, and he would be on the piano, like, and it was so funny because he played like this super like super like Delta blues, like on this like old upright piano, and it was like it was so much fun. And I yeah, but I think yeah, that's the thing is really like the idea of like togetherness and we're all gonna um agree on what we're gonna do and or maybe not agree, but at least sort of be in sync with one another is very powerful. Yeah, definitely.
So, Ellis, tell me about your experience going to music school and maybe what is the importance of music school?
Yeah. Um so for your listeners, I don't know who will know this or who will not know this, but I went to University of Virginia from I guess 2019. I was the class of 2023. Yeah, sorry, my memory for that kind of a thing is terrible. But I graduated this past May. I was a music major, um, and I think it's the thing I would say about music school is I'm very influenced by another Virginia musician, Victor Wooten. He's a big influence on me, also a bass player, and he wrote this book called The Music Lesson. Um, I can't remember when, but I read it. I think right before I went into college, and he talks about this idea of when you're a kid and you're learning how to talk, or when you're like a baby and you're learning how to talk, no adults say, oh, you have to go learn how to speak in full sentences and use transitive verbs. And I actually don't even know if that's a thing, but you know what I'm saying, like you need to speak in full clauses and have a verb and a subject and a indirect object and whatnot, and then I'll talk to you. That never happens. They just talk to you. um, and it's weird how in music, it's not really, it doesn't really work that way. People spend years of their lives learning how to solo over jazz tunes, how to play the classical repertoire, how to sing certain cantatas, or I think that's a word. um, but you know, and so that they can play with and make music with the people that they look up to. And I think the thing that I really got out of music school was that wasn't, you know, that barrier was broken down. Definitely. Um I mean, obviously this was not like inherently a part of music school, but getting to play with you at church, Carlia, one of the experiences I'm most thankful for in my life. I'm tearing up right now thinking about it. But also playing with the jazz band, getting to play you know, with different ensembles of students who would push me, students that I would push to get to a, you know, that sort of next level. And my mentors, obviously, I have to shout out Dr. Armstrong, Dr. Carson, who is in the music department, but obviously, you know, is a rapper and hip hop artist. Um, I think that I feel very lucky to have been able to be in conversation musically with those people. And I think that helped me become the musician that I am today. Not to say that who I am today is the final product, right? I'm still working on stuff. I'm still in conversation with musicians who I look up to, who I want to become more like, and but yeah, I think that having that experience was it is, I would maybe generalize that to what music school is all about. I think at least I ideally.
Well, you got all deep and philosophical on me. Wow.
I'm trying to like keep it like concise. Like I don't want to, you know, I know like we're on the airwaves.
No, but I love it. I love the stories. Keep the stories coming. But yeah, about the Victor Wooten thing, like we go through life trying to learn all these different things, but like you said in the
Yeah,
beginning, it doesn't. That's not how it works. So something I feel like that happened inherently through you being a student at UVA, you were really immersed in the Charlottesville music scene. So can
yeah.
you tell us a little bit about that community and what it was like being a part of it?
Definitely, definitely. It's funny too, because growing up, all of my family is from Long Island, which is in New York, which is where I am now. Um, but when I was growing up, my grandparents lived in Roanoke, which is in Southern Virginia, and so I promise this will lead back to the music community in Charlottesville. Um, but so going when we would drive to from Great Falls to Roanoke, we would stop in Charlottesville pretty much all the time and go to like, I don't know, the Whole Foods or whatever to, get lunch or and whatnot. And so some of my like very close friends now are from Charlottesville, who I play music with regularly. And so sometimes I wonder like, oh, were they like there or when I was there or yeah, you can sort of think about that. But I think the Charlottesville music scene, going off of that, is I think completely different from the music scene, where I was growing up, where it was sort of maybe a couple of bands and stuff at the level of playing, maybe bars or maybe little shows um or things like that. And then it was like the Nissan Auditorium, which is like a thousands of seats arena, and there wasn't a lot of in between. Um, Whereas I think in Charlottesville, and I think I would include Richmond in this as well, it's a lot more levels. And so I think that I was really, really lucky to be in a really good position coming into college of I wanted to learn a lot and I had gigged a little bit at home, but never really played like I I not like a real show, but like more professional musician type stuff. And so but I was also interested in a lot of different kinds of music. And so I think the really interesting thing about playing music in Charlottesville, particularly as a bass player, is in a week I would go from a jazz jam session to playing in a country band to playing gospel music in church, to I don't know, playing rock and roll at a bar with my band. And I think there's just I don't know. I'm biased, obviously, like because I'm from Virginia, but like I think there's just nowhere really like it where you can get that breadth and depth of musical experience. Um, yeah, quite like that area.
Well, Ellis, I never really thought about that. That really anything you're interested in, you can get a little bit of it here in Virginia. Wow, I love that. So you mentioned playing gospel music with me at church, but one thing I thought that was notable when I first asked you to do like the first gospel gig we did, you said I had been learning all of these gospel songs. I never knew if I would have a place
Yeah.
to. So just kind of tell me about the influence of gospel music on your playing. What
Yeah.
drew you to it in the beginning?
Yeah, well, it's funny because like I think I do remember I did go to church as a little kid, and I definitely remember very early one of my earliest musical experiences was like seeing the guitar player, and he was this like old guy. I actually never met him. I would love to meet him. Now I don't know if he still plays at that church, but I knew like what a guitar was, and I didn't really know any other instruments, and I was like, "Oh, he's playing guitar." Um, but I think, like I'm trying to remember, honestly. I think it's gotta be, coming from, as somebody who's for a long time, I would say probably since, like, middle school, early high school, been super, super immersed and influenced in jazz and funk and other forms of Black American music. Um, I think that obviously there's a ton of gospel influence in R&B and jazz, and I think as somebody who has always been, or maybe not always, but very often, I'm like a researcher, you know, as I think as I think you've experienced, I'll like I got to know like who's the bass player on this record, who's the drummer on this record, who, you know, all of that stuff. And I think that applies to, you know, the type of music as well. I remember you talking about in Dr. Armstrong's class, the was it is it the Pointer Sisters who had the song that was like very similar to Master Blaster?
The Clark
The
sisters.
Clark sisters, right, right, right. You brought the sorry, I'm not gonna try and remember the the name of the song. Um, but sort of like that with like for me, like with Stevie Wonder and seeing who he was listening to, and or like Jaco Pastorius, like who he was listening to. I think that's kind of what brought me into being interested in gospel music. But I gotta say also there's something about the power of like living in the era of like YouTube and social media where um let's face it, gospel musicians are some of the most talented, you know, people on earth, and that you know makes its way across the internet. Um and I think I was the beneficiary of that as well. All of those influences kind of coming together. Um yeah, that I think that's what I would say. Does that make sense?
It makes perfectly good sense. Yeah, and I like what you said about knowing who other people were listening to, because I always love, like, for example, like the Clark sisters, they have You Brought the Sunshine. It's amazing
Right.
what elements that she took of Stevie Wonder, how she kind of like interpolated it, and it
Hmm.
became like something completely different but heavily influenced. And I love what you said about like the era of YouTube, because now gospel music is something that people don't just experience on Sunday morning. They see it on TikTok,
Yeah.
they see it on Instagram.
Right.
But I also think it's important for you musicians out there that want to play gospel music. Go to church. You go to church. You learn from the source.
Right. Yeah. I
um.
will.
Oh, yeah.
I will
You.
never forget those the experiences I've had. Particularly on drums. I think like there I know like I know you definitely noticed like me when I you know when I would have to like sub for Gary like pre like drumming and then like coming back like just a couple months ago, I feel like it was like a world of like I feel like a different person. You know what I mean? Like
What do you
yeah, I don't
mean?
know.
No, I don't know what you mean. Explain.
Oh, just like in terms of um like being able to play with like the choir who've been singing these songs, you know, for ages, and just like like they're on the track and like I need to get on time with them. You know what I mean? Whereas like I think with a lot of bands that I've played with, it's like if you're not with the drummer, like you know, you're at the station, you've missed the train. Um so I was sort of like, oh wait, I got like I really gotta listen. You know what I mean? Like, and I think many musicians have had an experience like that of like, oh, I have to listen and I have to go home and shed and do my homework. And anyway,
Yeah,
bit
I
of a
think
tangent.
another good point though about like intergenerational
Oh
relationships
yeah, yeah,
in the church. Yeah, like the roots run deep of gospel music. So older generations, they have like this idea of what it's going to sound like,
yeah.
and it's up to you to just kind of get with it.
Right, for sure.
Okay, Ellis. So you've been working on a lot of musical projects. I've been following you. You have a lot of projects with Ryan Goodrich. So just kind of tell me about some of these collaborations and this music you've been putting out.
Of course. Yeah. I think uh so I've all not I think ever since kind of like getting into jazz, as I think many people of our generation have probably experienced, um, getting into jazz, getting into funk, hip hop is also a big element of that. I think for me around high school, getting into like Jay Dilla, Tribe Called Quest, stuff of that nature. The Roots. I think that's something that I've been really interested in. And I would say the other thing about me is that it's not enough for me to, oh, well, it's not enough. I think whenever I'm interested in something, I really want to um, deconstruct it and see what's happening and be able to learn from it. Whether it's, I was engineering when I when I first came to UVA, um, and so definitely tinkering with different tools and radio control stuff, and I don't know, all of that stuff. So I think I've definitely applied that to music as well, and so through that, producing has definitely been something I've been really focused on for a while, and I think that mostly came out of being interested in Jay Dilla and being interested in hip hop and sampling and making tunes and recording. Um, and the projects that I've worked on, I think are really, I think about them in terms of kind of like experiments, I would say. And um I also think about them in terms of like individual performances, in terms of, okay, this is how I was feeling at this time, and this is a marker of that and an exploration of that. Um and who I was at the time as well. I know, for example, like Foundation is Ryan and my first song that we ever did, and he just came over to my apartment and we just kind of goofed around in Ableton, which is the computer program I use. And I really like the idea that it's sort of a marker or a what's the word, like a high water line of where you were at a certain time. That's not, a video my mom took of me playing with the jazz band. It's more of like a it's more of like a product, or a concise kind of performance. um yeah, that's kind of how I look at producing. um and it also is almost, I feel like it's almost a counterpart to performing as well. There's something about, you know producing is not, it doesn't look like it did 50 years ago, where it's all musicians and we're going to record it, we're going to do this many takes until we get it. It's a lot more non-linear, as you know. And that's, I think it's almost become a different kind of performance in a way. And so exploring that is, yeah, so much fun and really, really rewarding.
Yeah, Ellis, that's great. So you do a lot of things though. You make music, you perform music. I even think you do like some video production things with
Mhm.
your songs you release, and I think you draw. You make like drawings and little art.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, why is creativity so important to you, or like, what is the role that it fulfills in your life?
Yeah. So I think uh it really comes down to, for a lot of that stuff, um that thing I was saying of, I really, when something inspires me, I really want to deconstruct it and get to the building blocks and be able to make something out of what it made me feel. Um I think creativity is, it's something about, I think, really connecting with other people in a way that's beyond uh communication, like verbal communication or written communication. Even if you are singing and saying lyrics, or even if you're writing a story and it's words on a page, I think there's something about like art that, I mean, it sounds cliche to say, but I think it's just true that it just helps us connect on a deeper level to other people and to the world, and I don't know. Um, and I think that's it's I think it was definitely impressed upon me on an early age as an early wait, yeah, since I was really little how important connecting with the world in that way is. Um, like I said, my neither of my parents are musicians, but my dad, his mother, my grandmother, was a professional painter. And my dad was a really good, like we have his paintings in our house. And so he was a really good painter and also, sung in church. And uh, yeah, I think that it was always encouraged for me to explore my creativity. And uh I think the value in it was seen as not the final product, but the doing the the creativity itself, just whatever however that expressed itself. The creativity itself was the ends, rather than like a means to an end. Um, and I think uh I think that's what creativity is about for me.
Ellis, you said so many good things. Wow. So it kind of like all goes together. The music, the story, the visuals kind of lends itself to telling a story. But you also talked about like the process. Like you learn the most, like when you're working on an album, you learn the most in the process. Like, oh, I need background vocals, or oh, this instrument does this.
Right.
But when it's completed, it's like, okay, now I'm done,
Yeah.
and the final product is the reward, but all of the things you kind of learned along the way. That's what it's.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
It's funny, like I would love to. I don't know if you want to talk about this, but I would love to hear about your experience recording your album, and if you feel like that, like the if the I would love to hear if you feel like the like the process was the reward, or like the playing the tunes like at your recital was the reward, or but real quick story about that. I remember doing a video for another artist that like one of my friends had produced in Charlottesville. And it was actually, I think we were doing it like, I want to say a year ago today or tomorrow. It was either April 8th or April 9th. And me and my friend Zach, who was the drummer for my band, and we, have been playing music together for a really long time. Um, I remember we got done with the session, and it was like a beautiful day, and everybody was playing really well, and it was a lot of fun. And then the video came out like a couple months later, and we were talking about it, and we were like, "Did you watch it?" And he was like, "No," and I was like, "No, I didn't watch it either." And it wasn't like because we weren't excited about it, but it was sort of like our experience of it was the making, and that was so valuable in and of itself that like we didn't feel the need to experience it in that other way. But sorry, I did ask you a question and then I told a story, so I'm sorry about that. But yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I never really watch. The better I feel about a performance, the least likely I am to watch it because I just want to
Yeah,
hold. I just want to hold that moment where it felt
yeah,
special,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
I know if I replay it, I'm gonna be like, "Ooh, that was a little flat," and "Ooh, I should have did this," and "Oh, yeah." But you
yeah.
did ask me some questions. So for you guys that don't know, Growing Pains the EP is coming soon.
Yes.
And I had a concert where I kind of previewed the songs from the EP, and that felt like a reward in a
Yeah.
way because I went to that school. George Mason was where the concert was, and I really struggled through music school. Like I probably was one of the music students that teachers kind of thought like, I don't know what she's going to do after music school.
Huh.
So it was just
That's
really
interesting.
yeah. So it's just really rewarding to go back and to like have put in some work on my instrument, and like I wasn't writing songs in undergrad. So
Mhm.
to like get better at the craft and also kind of add something to my musical toolbox and be able to come back and showcase that felt like Felt great. So that was a reward.
Yeah.
Um, but and I think it'll be a reward when I finally get it out because it's been such a long time coming. But
Mhm.
I think it really restored my musical confidence because I think sometimes music school can beat you down when you're not good at certain things, or you feel like, oh, theory's hard, or oral skills
Right.
is hard, or transcribing's hard, arranging's hard. And I feel like for that
Yeah.
performance and for the album, I really had to pull out all of my skills. Like I wrote the background parts, and like I wrote the songs, and I was trying to
Right.
think about like, ooh, the bridge doesn't feel right, what can I do here? So all of those things, I always felt like I'm not that good at it. Because it was my own work, I had to like find some confidence and pull the skills together. um yeah, so everyone stay tuned for Growing Pains. Thanks, Ellis, for the question.
Of course. Of course.
Okay, Ellis, we talked about a lot of different things, creativity, your experience in music school, just this path that you've been on. But have there ever been any challenges?
No. No, I'm kidding. Um, yeah, no, definitely. I think, but I think that's the thing about music is like, or being like, like, I don't know. I think this is something that like I talk with my students about a lot, which is like, sorry for background. I'm currently a music teacher. That's like my main profession. And in as in I teach private lessons. I don't teach like in a school, or I do teach in a school, but it's not like like an elementary school or something like that. Um, and I think that's the thing of like, particularly as a young person, m- being creative or playing sports or any kind of thing that, or whether it's like writing or playing music or doing art or anything that's sort of like brings positive energy into your life, I think is an outlet for how you're feeling, whether it's good, bad, or neutral. And so as someone, yeah, in terms of challenges, yeah, I've definitely had a lot of like mental health struggles, and um in various forms, particularly going through college. My family moved back to New York, from being in Virginia all my life. And so I think that's the thing, is like, you know, creativity has always been my outlet for um what I'm feeling and what I'm going through in my life. And I think that even as somebody who is not really in my recorded music, I'm not really a performer. I don't really take center stage. I'm usually helping other people produce. I think if you've never had a challenge in your life or never have gone through something that you had to like work for and work with yourself with, how can you relate to somebody who has created art with something that they've gone through, or in spite of something that they've gone through? um and I think that definitely comes through in my work. And I think that, particularly as an instrumentalist, I think we can get uh oh, did I do that? Sorry. um I think as an instrumentalist, you can easily get away from like the idea of you're trying to create feelings with music. You're trying to get people to feel something and relate to something. And when you're not using your physical voice, your vocal cords, I think it can be really easy to uh cut yourself off from that. And I think I try my best to let those things inform my creativity and be an outlet for that energy. um and those challenges that I've had, for those to come through in who I am as a person.
Ellis, I think a light bulb just went off for me because you talked about like any challenges that you've had, creativity has kind of been an outlet for those. And I've always kind of said it the opposite. Like
Mm,
sometimes my creativity is the cause of some of my challenges, but I think
mm,
sometimes when I've had those challenges, it's because there's like outside things dependent on it. Like when I was going to
yeah,
music school, like my grade depended on how well I performed, or gigs, or
yeah.
being pressured to learn a certain amount of music in a certain amount of time, which is supposed to be fun, and it is, but it's not fun when like your rent is tied to it, you
Yeah, for
know?
sure, for sure. Yeah, and I think it's because I started with talking to my students about this, but and I didn't come back to it. I think I sort of had a non sequitur in there, but to kind of circle back to that, like what you're saying, I think that's a big thing I try to impress upon my students is like this like music is for you. Music isn't for anybody else. It's for the and I try to say them, say to them in my lessons, this time is yours. This time this isn't my time. This isn't the school's time. This is your time. Your parents are paying for you to be here. So this is your time. And the reason I say that is because I think um it's so important that like we don't that our art doesn't turn into this route thing, like a thing that we have to do. And sometimes like right now I'm reading the Rick Rubin book. The It's sitting on my couch but I can't read upside down. The Creative Act is what it's called. And he talks a lot about many artists are people that he says feel more deeply than other people, and that's why they choose to become artists, is because they feel emotions more deeply and they need a way to express that. And I don't know that I entirely agree with that idea that like art people who become artists just feel more deeply. But I think that that is definitely an element of creating anything, is you have to be in tune with yourself, and sometimes you have too much going on and you need to put the bass down. You need to put the music away, and you just need to go outside, or and like obviously if your rent depends on it, sometimes that's not always an option. But I think for me, like for my teaching, I'm sort of like, all right, well, let's check in, like, are we in a place to practice this craft? Because it is it's not the type of thing that if you're not in the place to do it, you shouldn't force yourself to do it. Because this is something that's like higher than who we are as people. And we need to be in tune with ourselves to do, and we need to be able to be gentle with ourselves to be able to do. I don't know. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, and of course I relate it to like just like spirituality. Like I feel like
Mm,
music and creativity is just so spiritual because it's like
yeah.
it doesn't exist. Like what you're
Right.
thinking of in your
Right.
head, it doesn't exist. And so
Exactly.
like God is like downloading visions into you, and you're like
Yeah.
the vessel to like bring it forth. So yeah, I love what you said about that. Wow. Art.
Yeah.
Okay, Ellis. What's some advice you have for someone aspiring to do what you do?
I don't know. I feel like uh to do what I do. Let
Someone
me
that
let me
has
focus. Yeah, oh go ahead, go ahead.
Okay, someone that has many interests, someone
Yeah.
yeah, someone who has many creative
Yeah.
interests. How do they kind of cultivate those?
Yeah, yes. I think I definitely can speak to somebody who has a lot of interest, particularly if they're creative interests. I think that let me put it this way. The thing that I think that I have focused more and more on as I've gotten older is having having a community of people who are interested in the thing that you're interested in, who are interested in other things that you're interested in, particularly with art. I think um I something I definitely struggled with a lot was like going into college. I was not set on being a music major. I thought about doing things like graphic design. I had thought about doing things like industrial design, engineering, all that stuff. And it's cool to have, it's good to have options, but it's also good, it also makes your life a little bit more complicated because, you have a lot of choices. And so the thing I would say is the the people are always going to make the biggest difference when you have a community of people who are interested in the same thing as you, that you like, that you respect, that you want to become more like. Those people are those people are going to matter more than what it is you're doing. And so I would say always focus on your circle of friends, of peers, of collaborators, and always go towards the people that you see yourself in and who you want their good qualities to rub off on you, if that makes sense. I think because I think that's what I've tried to do as I've gotten older, and I think that's particularly for an artist. I think the people who you respect, who you look up to, who you think are good people, and yeah, um, I don't know. Does that make sense?
Ellis, it all makes sense. Stop asking me that.
Like Carlia.
Oh, thanks. I'm gonna cry. No, but really, people are so important, especially because
Yeah.
like you want people around you telling you like the positive things or the not so positive things when you need to hear them, like
Mhm.
people who genuinely care about your well-being, and also they care about their own well-being, and they're
Oh, yeah.
continuing to like push themselves, and they're willing to push you when needed.
Yeah.
Love it. Ella, so tell me, what's next? What you working on? What's the dream? What's the goal?
Yeah. Um, the I would say the dream is just to, for the next couple years, to just do music as much as I can, and continue, you know, uh, you know, living for other people, trying to help other people and teach, and do what I can to, like, I don't know, make a positive impact or whatnot. I think that's kind of what I try to focus on. But in the short term, I mean, I've been producing a bunch. I'm always like shouting stuff out on Instagram, like saying what I'm like, producing and whatnot. I have, yeah, a couple new tunes coming out relatively soon. Um, and yeah, playing some shows. Yeah. I don't know. I can get into more specifics. I don't want to like plug myself though. That's not what the show is for. But
It it is. It's called an artist series, and you are the artist,
I
Ellis.
understand. Well, if you're interested in what I'm doing, my Instagram is Ellis's World with two S's.
Wow, you're so humble.
I
Um,
I always say what I'm doing on there pretty much. So,
yeah.
yeah.
What you said really speaks to you, though. You said like music, of course, but helping people, being there for people. That's really who you are,
Yeah.
Ellis.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, now
I
I have
just
some fun. Oh,
Oh, no, go ahead.
I
Yeah,
have
yeah.
I have some fun questions now.
Uh-oh.
Okay, you're kind of young, so I don't know if you know
Is this
these
like
people.
trivia?
No,
Oh, okay.
NSYNC or Backstreet Boys.
Yeah. Oh, which one?
Yeah.
Um, I gotta say Backstreet Boys. Because NSYNC is like, I feel like, I don't know this for a fact, but I think NSYNC is a little bit younger. Like NSYNC is a little bit closer to my age, right? Because Justin Timberlake was in NSYNC, right?
You think Justin Timberlake's close to your age?
No, 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 but closer. No, it could be by like 4, it could be by like 2 years, but I feel, to me, for some reason, I feel like NSYNC, but I just, like, didn't really listen to them, but I did listen to Backstreet Boys, like, when I was a kid.
Backstreet's back.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite thing to splurge on?
I really like kombucha.
That's a good. Me
You
too.
you know this, right? Yeah. Um, which is hard to find on Long Island. Yeah.
No, no Whole Foods. They don't have the kombucha at the
There
Whole
no, that
Foods.
yeah, there is a lot of Whole Foods, but it's not like Charlottesville where it's, like, everywhere.
You can go to you can go to the brewery and get kombucha.
Yeah,
Not that I would know
right.
that, but so what is
But,
your
like, there's, like, multiple kombucha breweries in Charlottesville alone. It's like, yeah, it's too much.
what is your dream collaboration?
Oh, I mean, it would be Donny Hathaway, but, you know, I I always say, like, my dream is, like, to play music with Stevie Wonder, but, yeah, I guess, like, I think it would have to be Donnie, though, like, if it's, like, living or passed on. Yeah, he's just the greatest.
Wow, that's a great one. Okay, you spent some time at the church. What is a gospel song that speaks to you?
Yeah, Pass Me By Not is my favorite gospel song. It's Yeah, or Don't Pass Me By. I don't know. It's the House of Hope, where E. Dewey Smith is singing. That's probably my favorite gospel recording ever. It's
Wow,
Yeah, it's so beautiful.
look at you. Okay, if
Did
we
we
could
ever
play,
play that one?
no, we haven't.
We haven't? Okay. We should
If
do
we
it
could,
when I come back. Sorry.
let's do it. So, if you could play a song of yours, what would it be?
If I could play like a
Like one that you've produced. Like if you're
Oh,
introducing,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I would say, probably honestly, this is a bit of a cop out, but, I helped write the lyrics for, a song that Ryan and I have coming out, later this month called Bad Habit. And that one means a lot to me because of that, like, because I helped write the lyrics. But I would say that, or, Wherever You Go, which is, like, the instrumental track that I did with, my friend Ben, because we wrote that one together as well, and I think, yeah, probably those 2. But one of
Wow.
them you can't listen to because it's not out yet, but yeah.
Well, I guess we just have to play wherever you go. We have to put that in a. Okay, Ellis, I've had a great time, but before we get out of here, I know you already dropped your Instagram, but tell people where else they can keep up with you.
Uh, that's pretty much it. I have a website as well, which is, Ellis's World, same, like, .com. But, yeah, it's pretty much on Instagram. I'm on TikTok as well, but I post like, I'm, like, kinda old school in that, like, not even old school, I'm, like, millennial school where I post everything to everywhere. So, like, if you follow me on one of those places, you'll see it, whatever it is. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ellis, for being here. I've had a great time.
Thank you, Carlia. This is so fun. I hope I
Yay.
said something helpful to
You
somebody.
said you said a lot of helpful things, Ellis.
Thank you. All right.